When we rely on our memory of a poem, the text blurs. Without rigorous preservation, specific words fade into vague impressions, and the precise mechanics of the author's argument are entirely lost. Subjective memory relies on generalized assumptions. We remember a feeling or a single famous line, and our brains fill in the rest. This habit introduces compounding errors, shifting our understanding away from what the author actually wrote. To see exactly how these errors work our comprehension, we are going to extract the data from one of the most historically dense poems in the English language, Shakespeare's Sonnet 53. Before we can deconstruct a single metaphor, we must establish textual supremacy. Accurate analysis requires isolating and verifying the exact wording of the primary source document. Analyzing an unverified text means every subsequent interpretation rests on a false foundation. If the primary data is wrong, the entire argument collapses. This verified 14-line dataset of Sonnet 53 is a dense wall of information. Processing it requires isolating its architectural units. Pulling the text apart reveals a highly specific blueprint: 3 independent 4-line units known as quatrains, followed by a closing 2-line couplet. We will process this text sequentially. By tracking the specific historical symbolism through each structural unit, we can strip away centuries of assumptions and generate a precise modern translation. Grasping this macrostructure is the mandatory first step. We have to map the building before we can inspect the individual bricks. Focusing on lines 1 through 4 reveals the baseline premise. 2 primary nouns dominate: substance and shadows. The speaker asks, "What is your substance that millions of strange shadows on you tend?" A mathematical relationship links them, proposing one physical subject casts millions of distinct shadows. This specific web of metaphors poses the central philosophical question of the text. How is it possible that one singular entity can encompass all the various forms of beauty in the world? Modern readers often assume this is a standard romantic compliment, a simple declaration of love. The actual imagery is much colder, presenting a physics problem regarding light, projection, and physical reality. Entering the poem at line 7 or line 10 ignores this initial equation. If you miss the distinction between the solitary substance and the millions of shadows, the subsequent comparisons make no logical sense. Quatrain 1 sets an unbreakable philosophical baseline. The rest of the text exists solely to test this initial hypothesis. In lines 5 through 8, the dataset evolves with mythological nouns: Adonis, the pinnacle of male beauty, and Helen of Troy, the ultimate female standard. These images refer back to Quatrain 1. Both are not equals, but mere shadows cast by the subject's superior substance. The text expands the narrow physical physics metaphor into a broader argument crossing gender and myth. The subject's beauty is now so comprehensive that the greatest figures of antiquity are just cheap imitations. This expansion is mathematically locked into place by the rhyming pair of counterfeit and set. The rhyme forces the reader to equate the celebrated beauty of Helen with a counterfeit painting. The narrative trajectory has accelerated. The speaker is actively stripping the power away from historical icons and transferring it entirely to the poem's subject. Quatrain 2 explicitly elevates the poem from a simple physical description to a complex comparative argument, permanently raising the intellectual stakes of the text. The analysis now moves to lines 9 through 12, which contain the most complex data in the poem. The text shifts away from mythology and isolates 2 seasonal allusions, spring and foison. To an educated Elizabethan audience, foison had a highly specific meaning. It denoted the autumn harvest, a period of absolute physical abundance and agricultural climax. A modern reader glosses over foison, diluting it into a generic synonym for season or entirely ignoring it. With this context, the subject moves beyond human comparisons. The text positions them as the source of planetary growth and seasonal abundance. This line of reasoning relies entirely on Neoplatonism, a philosophy highly popular in the Renaissance, which argued that all physical beauty on Earth is merely a flawed reflection of a single, perfect divine form. Neoplatonism operates as the connective tissue here. It validates the jump from a physical description of a person to the overarching concept of universal beauty. The subject is the divine form. The changing seasons are just shadows. Without applying the correct historical lens to Quatrain 3, the poem's climax is misread entirely. The necessity of historical data in textual analysis is absolute. We reach the final 2 lines of the text to discover the resolution of the dataset. Line 13 begins with the phrase, "but you." This exact transitional phrase initiates the logical shift. A sonnet's couplet functions as a strict logical pivot, known as a turn. It is designed to disrupt or resolve the data presented in the previous 12 lines, rather than just provide a rhyming ending. The couplet forces a synthesis of Quatrain 1 and Quatrain 2 and Quatrain 3. After proving the subject's external beauty matches all myths and seasons, the text introduces a new variable, the subject's internal state. The final thematic resolution is mathematically enforced. But you like none, none you, for constant heart. The subject may share the external grace of the universe, but their loyalty, their internal, constant heart, has no equal. The couplet functions as the final lock. It secures the previous 12 lines by resolving the competition between external beauty and internal character. Clearing away the localized annotations reveals our final translation matrix. This side-by-side comparison shows the original text on the left, ready to be populated. The modern English explanation for Quatrains 1 and 2 populates first. We read that the subject's beauty is the true substance, while icons like Adonis and Helen are merely cheap imitations. This traces directly back to our structural analysis of the text's nouns and rhymes. The explanation for Quatrain 3 appears next. We apply the historically adjusted meaning we uncovered, proving the subject is the source of both the spring's growth and the autumn's agricultural harvest. The final modern translation of the couplet slots in at the bottom. The assertion of the subject's unmatched loyalty stands as the ultimate logical output of the matrix. This side-by-side matrix represents a fully deconstructed, strictly accurate translation. It is completely free from the errors of assumption, sentimentality, or memory. True textual clarity and modern understanding are only possible through the rigorous, sequential deconstruction of a verified primary source. This sequence, verifying text, isolating units, and applying historical data, is a repeatable strategy for navigating complex Elizabethan poetry. You can test this methodology right now. Select a sonnet, perhaps Sonnet 18 or 130, isolate the quatrains, and map the nouns before you try to guess the meaning. Treating the text as a rigorous dataset moves the analysis from speculative impressions toward conclusions supported by the poem's own structure.